Welcome to the Soulish Podcast, and thank you so much for being here. My name is Whitney Apke, and I am your host. On the Soulish Podcast, we're talking all about the aha moments, the uncomfortable and painful lessons of life, and how to deeply connect with ourselves and others, and the breakthroughs, big or small, that we experience in our spirit, soul, and body. We'll dive deep and talk about everything in between, of course. And I'm so excited to share my experiences and thoughts, as well as bring on guests who are thought leaders and truth seekers. It's my desire to uplift, encourage, and inspire you in each episode. And in today's episode, I have a really awesome special guest who's also a really great friend of mine, Daniel, aka the Past Life Regressionist. He is a quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner and a beyond quantum healing practitioner. He really is good at and loves and enjoys helping people discover who, what, and where they've been across time. He's really gifted and feels that this is also just his part in making the world a better place and to help free people from the karmic baggage that they've been carrying around for multiple lives. And he's truly gifted and loves what he does. And that's probably what makes it such an amazing experience for you, the person going through the session. We did a session right before this podcast episode, and it was so much fun. I had so much fun. It was my first time really, truly going under hypnosis. And I know that a lot of us have kind of apprehensions or fears around that, but my experience was wonderful, super positive, and I think that is a testament to Daniel as well. I'm so excited for you guys to learn more about past life regressions. This is a new experience and field of learning for me as well. And so I'm happy to take you guys on the journey along with me. So join the conversation. I'll see you guys on the flip side. If you are listening to this, you can listen to the podcast episode on all platforms. And we are also now on YouTube. So you can check us out at the Soulish Podcast on YouTube and watch the interview live.
Daniel, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast and for doing a session with me just now, because I'm disheveled. I feel very light and airy right now. I feel good. And that was so cool to experience what it is to go through a past life regression and to experience the awesome service that you offer to humans and alike. And it's so cool to have this experience and to now have this podcast episode with you, because I feel like it will help people understand what you do and how it is so instrumental in your healing and in your journey to understand fully, or at least partially more in depth, what you've been through as a soul and what this lifetime is meant to be about, and maybe the lessons you need to learn or the things you need to grow and learn from and heal from. And so thank you so much for being on the Soulish Podcast.
Thank you for having me. Oh, one thing just to comment on that you said about this service being for humans. I like to be very inclusive. So if aliens want to do a past life regression, as long as they speak English, we're good to go.
Yeah. Or just telepathically communicate, however that is.
Just saying. I don't want to, shut anyone out from the process.
So
or any being out from the process.
Everybody, by the way, this is his sense of humor. He has the best sense of humor ever.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for this. So I just literally went through what you would call a mini past life regression, because typically a past life regression, at least for what you offer, is between 4 to 6 hours. And why necessarily is that? Is that because of just everything that goes into the past life regression and all like the prep work
Mm-hmm. So
goes into it?
Just for clarification, also, I don't offer mini sessions for.
Yes.
Yeah.
This was just for the podcast.
This just for the podcast, because there was a lot that was left off of the experience, because it's a full day's journey. Like a session will typically last about 4 to 6 hours, because we're going to spend hours beforehand just talking and covering your life story, who you are in this life. What has your journey been in this life? That way, if there are patterns that repeat from past lives, I'll be able to identify them once they come up during your actual regression. So it's just, we're going to be talking for a couple hours beforehand, and then have your actual session, which will last up to 2 hours. And that's like, well, I mean, that's the really cool part, because that's when you see images of your past life or whatever's most relevant for you to see. And then it's when you get to connect with your higher self or spirit guides and ask any question that you want to ask. I mean, you're talking relationships, career, life's purpose. Why is my favorite color blue? Why did Mr. Smith treat me like garbage in the 3rd grade? Why did Miss Janine yell at me in the 2nd grade? Just any question
Anything and
can be
everything.
asked. Anything and everything.
Which is really cool. And I have past life hair, by the way, past life regression hair. I have quantum fields leaped, bounded through, yes, time travel hair. No, I think what's cool is for everybody, he just gave me kind of a taste. And so that way we could go into this podcast episode and I'd at least have a frame of reference of what this is like and the experience and all of that, just so that we can share that with you guys, so that you guys can know, kind of get a sense of what a session would be like. And Daniel will confirm this, when I came up and out, I looked at my phone and was like, we've been doing this for an hour and a half. Like, it felt like 10 minutes. I was like, holy shit, it's been an hour and a half. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry. Was I not good? Was I just like not good at this whole thing? You're like, no, you're great.
Yeah, it's fun.
He's like, no, that's typical, of like that it would take some time to go through, which I had no idea. It did not feel like that at all, which is crazy.
Yeah, you lose your perception of time in that space. Even though you're very aware of what's going on, it goes by so quickly.
Mm-hmm. So was I technically in like a hypnosis state? I don't even know what to call that. Like you actually did like some sort of hypnosis so that I would, where do I go? Am I going technically into my subconscious during that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're just accessing what's stored in your subconscious. But
yeah, it
is hypnosis, but it's not your stereotypical hypnosis. Like, I'm not a hypnotherapist. I'm just a past life regressionist. So, just my particular specialty is past life regression and quantum healing. So it's hypnosis because it's an altered state of mind. But you're also being hypnotized when you're watching TV.
Right. Yeah.
You're hypnotized when you're driving.
True.
So I had a practitioner give me the perfect explanation for it. Her name is Tiffany. She calls it an interactive guided meditation, because you're just in a very deep meditative state, but you're interacting with me the entire time. So you are completely aware of everything that is going on. You are my eyes and ears in there. So at no point am I ever telling you, hey, Whitney, you were this, like you were I don't know, fill in the blank. You were a knight. You were a samurai. You were geisha. Like, sorry, I don't know why that one just came to mind right now.
Maybe it's the red lips.
And also, I know samurai's Japan.
Yeah.
Well, geishas are China, right? Or is that a Japanese thing too?
I think it's Japanese.
It is?
I think it's Japanese. Yeah, it's Japanese.
It's Japanese.
I don't think there's Chinese geishas. I think there's only Japanese geishas, or like Korean geishas. I think that's technically a Japanese word for prostitute. Yeah.
I took us down this path right now, didn't I? Oops.
All good.
So yeah, at no point am I telling you're any of those things.
Yeah. Or anything. Like you didn't say like, oh, you're on a street with like cobbled stones, or like the buildings are kind of stony, like, and they have shingle. You didn't tell me any of that to say. I saw it and then was kind of telling you what I'm seeing, which is really cool. Really cool. And for me, it was kind of like things were it was almost like, wasn't smoky, but in that state, it was kind of like things were just slowly like appearing. And I know that I was getting frustrated that it was taking so long for things to become clear. I remember thinking that, like, can you just like hurry up? He's asking.
It's okay. It
So
takes time sometimes.
yeah, it felt like a while where things just weren't coming up. But yeah, it was really cool because I was seeing so clearly like the scenes and everything. And yeah, it was a really cool experience. Um, and we went through 3 past lives in that time frame.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's really cool. Is that typical? Do people go through more in like a full session?
Sometimes it's 1,
Wow.
and sometimes it's 5 or 6. It all depends on what you need to see.
Ah, okay. And that is all directed by like your guides, your angels, your higher self
Mm-hmm.
is guiding you through and specifically showing you, even though you think you're just like going into whatever you're seeing, like it's actually all guided and directed by your guides, your angels, your tribe, your higher self, whatever people
Mm-hmm.
identify with. Got it.
Yeah, and even in the
This,
moment, like it didn't make sense necessarily why you were seeing what you were seeing, but at the end,
mm-hmm,
we talked to your higher self or your guide, whose name was Sarah,
mm-hmm,
and then it's like, hey, Sarah, why did you show her these lives? It's like, oh, this is why. The first one
mm-hmm,
because it addressed this, the second one because it addressed this, the third one because it addressed this. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, now it all makes sense.
mm-hmm,
So yeah,
mm-hmm.
they know, they know what's going on.
That's so cool. At any point in time, do you feel like you're being guided by your guides or your angels, your higher self in while doing like a past life regression, or are you mostly relying on other people's guides, angels, higher selves?
I think that they could potentially be one and the same. That
Mm,
they are,
yeah.
I don't want to say like they're on the same team, but they're operating from a similar consciousness of something that we can't quite comprehend because we just view ourselves as, this individual person over on
Mm-hmm,
this side. So it's
mm-hmm.
like you got your higher self, I've got mine. So they therefore would be individuals. Or is that just very human thinking where,
Yeah.
maybe they're linked up somehow and they're guiding both of us at the same time?
It's true that we often think very separately. Like we have very much of a separate mindset because I've actually never had that thought until you just said that. And I'm like, yep.
Could be.
That makes sense. I mean, it's kind of like us. I mean, I would help you out. Why wouldn't I help you out? Why wouldn't I do something for you if you need help? Why don't they do that? Why don't they communicate? Why don't they help each other, help us, help them, help us, help the world?
It's like,
Makes
hey,
sense.
Sarah, you get this one. We'll get beers next time.
Yes, totally.
I don't know.
Can you
Maybe that's
hurry
how it
up?
works over there.
It's happy hour. Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
that's so cool. So cool. So for in relation to me, I came in this past life regression session just wanting some more clarity on like, am I going in the right direction? I just want to make sure I'm offering what I need to offer to the world, right? I want to be used and I want to be of value, I think is like my biggest thing ever. And that's in relationships, that's in friendships. I want to add value to you, Daniel, right? Like I want to add value to your life, to your business, to your career, to as a friend. I want to add value to your life in whatever way is good, right and in alignment and okay with you, right? And that's the same with everybody, including my family, my friendships. So it's interesting that I went in with that intention. And what my higher self basically showed me was that ultimately I came here to learn about healing, right? And I'll need your help with this because some of this I was listening like on the other side of the door, but from what I remember or can recall is that I'm here to learn how to heal and then help others learn how to heal. So it's very broad. It's not super specific, but I think that kind of also gives me a whole lot of clarity that, well, anything that I do and anything that I offer is going to be within that frame because that's ultimately what I'm here to do. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of interesting.
I mean, does the healer need to be the person who heals with their hands? Or the one who mixes potions or herbs? Or
Mm-hmm.
are podcasters healers because you're healing with your voice? You're breaking
Right.
people out of a paradigm. Or if someone
Mm-hmm.
listens to you and they relate, and by proxy, they're healed, or they are
Right.
that much closer to being healed because of their interaction with
Yeah.
you. Like, so I don't know if healing necessarily needs to be in a box,
Exactly.
which
Yeah.
ironically, that contract came out of a box in your session.
That's right. Yes. She gave me a key. Yeah. I unlocked it. God, this is all like coming back. I feel like there was so much detail in this experience that like I can't even imagine. I can't wait to book a full-time session with you and go through that. Because there's so much that you get out of this session. There's so much value added. So thank you so much. Gosh.
You're very welcome.
I wanted to ask you kind of about like the applying what you get in your sessions. Obviously, these are super tailored to each individual. So everyone's going to have a different journey and everyone's going to have a different like post past life regression journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of understanding, deeply connecting and relating to yourself in a way that you didn't before this experience. Because like I saw myself as a guy. I saw my hands. They were very duty. I was like, these aren't female hands that I'm looking at right now. They're thick. They look very weathered. And they're not painted. These are man hands that I'm looking at right now. And I was looking down at a small coffin. So he must have been like 3, 4 years old. And it was my son that had passed away by a disease. So obviously it was before medicine was what it is like now. I have no other frame of reference for like the time, like what time of, obviously we had a coffin, so sort of developed like colloquial time frame, maybe. I have no idea. But I had that. And then I was a woman twice in the 2 other past lives that I had. So such a little bit of a range there, and a range of different stories. So how does one post past life regression, how do you walk through this? Is that part of what you also do, or do you recommend them to other people that could help apply what they saw, or is that part of like your service as well?
In that situation, it's what your higher self says. Like your higher
Mm,
self, Sarah, pretty much laid it out.
mm,
But it's up to you what you decide to do with that information. If you don't want to do anything with it, that's totally up to you. But if you want to apply that information, that's up to you too. So I'm just the guy who asks questions.
mhm,
I am not a miracle worker. I am, I am not the fixer. I just ask the questions. But I like that because still it puts your destiny in your own hands. And that's where free will
mm,
comes in the equation too. It's up to you what you decide to do with whatever is presented to you. So, I mean, I guess to answer your question, is there someone I would refer them to next? Not necessarily. I would say in some situations, if something is unearthed that is, what do I say, is pertinent to the present. If someone is in a relationship with someone, or just there's been some pattern that really relates to the here and now. And the challenge is how to work with it with the information that you now have. So I would say, maybe it's okay to go to talk therapy because you know where this stems. Oops.
We'll edit that.
It's my pop guard. And it's now more tangible. Granted, that's if your therapist is on board with past lives and you walk in there, be like, yo, doc, or yo, therapist, yo, MFT. like my dude or my girl. We've been going through this thing for 7 past lives. I don't know why 47 just rolled off my tongue. Let's just say 4. We've had this problem for 4 past lives. We're just caught up in the cycle. I want to break it now, but I'm having trouble separating myself from it. Like, I think that's where it can work in tandem with what is pressing now. However, everything else, it's, you do one session with me. If you want to do more, that's up to you. But if you come to me and you're like, hey, I want to address this issue, how many sessions is it going to be? I think 1. You want to do more, you do more. Because still, at the end of the day, you are presented with the information, and then it's up to you what you choose to do with it. So if your higher self even says, hey, this is what it is, we need you to walk away from this relationship, or still, we'll go with that example. And you're like, okay, they're like, that's all you need to do. You just need to leave. That's your karmic contract here, is to leave. I'm like, okay, well.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's much easier said than done too, especially if you're married. And what if you have kids? I mean, there's the whole legal process. There's, getting your own place. I mean, it's like, I don't want it to come off overly simplistic, but even in that situation, and if you know it in your gut that you're supposed to leave and the information has been served to you on a silver platter, you can choose to do something about it, or you can keep being like, all right, well, I'm going to go to as many people as I can until I don't have to face it. Or through as many modalities as I can.
Right. Yeah. Until you find the one person's like, no, you don't need to leave. And then you're like, thank you. I love how we do that.
Or wait, I'm just going to snap it away for you right now. Oh, yep. See?
Yeah.
All done. Give me $1,000 now.
No, it's so cool that that you even do this. I was going to ask you at the beginning, but I'm glad to ask you now. How did you get into this? Like, how did you discover past lives, and how did you realize like this is something, because you are gifted at it? So
thank you.
How did you discover that gifting and all that? I'm super curious.
So for me, the way I fell into past lives was through my own health issues. Like, I am very rigid, I'm very stubborn, and I'm a firm believer in science. For my entire life, I've been a firm believer of science, or in science. And then 13 years ago, I came down with health issues, and only Western medicine could cure me, because that's what I believed in. So for years, I was going down that route of, what you got for me, doc? Doctor be like, all right, we've got this. This is gonna fix you. Be like, okay, yeah, I'm so excited. Well, shoot me up with whatever it is. It doesn't work. Go to the next doctor. All right, I know what the problem is. I'm gonna fix you. Okay, same thing. Go to the next doctor. I know what it is. I'm gonna fix you. Okay, I've heard this before, but okay. And after years of that, I was just so defeated. And I finally had to push myself to a place where I said, you know what? I may have to look for alternative treatments. I'm going to have to look at alternative treatments. And I had to open myself up to allow myself to open myself to allow myself to open myself up to the possibility of looking at those. And I know I sound like I was a broken record there, but that was totally purposeful. So it's because that's what the process was like for me. And once I came to a place where I allowed myself to let that come into my life, I started noticing signs and things just started to line up. And I now have that terminology as synchronicities. And past life regression ended up being one of those things that fell into my lap. And I'm like, wow, that sounds really cool. And I tried it about a month later in a recorded regression that was on YouTube. And it felt very real to me. It was very moving. And I did it a few more times over the next couple months. And then I felt very ready to do it in person. So I went and had it done. And, one thing I like to distinguish is the difference between believing and knowing. It's one of the most valuable lessons I've ever learned. In that process of going through my first regression, I was so moved by the experience. I'm like, there's really something here. Yet that science part of me was like, it's not factually based. It's not. But I believed it was real because I was so moved by the experience. So I walked out of that session a firm believer in past lives. And by default, I was a believer in future lives. So I'm like, all right, it could be better next time or it could be worse next time. These are the cards I've been dealt this time around. So how am I going to play them? So, like, admittedly, I was not healed from my health issues. However, my perspective changed and I was no longer a victim of my circumstances. My health issues were just this pesky thing I had to deal with from here on out. When I say here on out, it's not going to be forever. It's still something that I have to work with, but it doesn't define me anymore because that's the way I identified myself, was as someone who was sick.
Yeah.
And once that was lifted from me, things got a little bit better because I started viewing the world through a new lens. And I did a few more sessions over the next year or so and just, I was absolutely fascinated with it. And there were a multitude of reasons why I decided to get certified. But when I did, I just thought it was so cool. Like, it was so cool being on the other side of it. It is so cool getting someone's life story and then seeing where they've been through past lives. Because, when you really know someone, you just know them in this life. Yet I feel privileged to get to know someone through many lives and just to see all those facets of their personality. Then there's like, the really cool sessions, the ones that are, just what you would not expect normal. And those are so cool to be a part of. And I wanted to become a practitioner to hear about those lives and see them, I guess, secondhand. But I just, I like being, I like being unique. And, you know, when you meet someone and they say, hey, what do you do? Well, when you tell them that you're a past life regressionist, you usually get like what? Like, what's that? Like, they're expecting anything but that. And I love that look. Right. Or the few times when they're like, oh yeah, I've heard about them. Like, really? Like, that's cool. But it's just cool to introduce something to someone that they've never heard about before.
That's so funny. I can only imagine what people react like when you say that, which is cool because it's a whole new, you're opening them up just by telling them what you do. You're opening up their world, which is really cool.
Yeah, there've been some funny ones, like some funny reactions.
Oh, that's so cool. Thank you so much for sharing, because I think it's really cool for people to understand, like, how do you even get into this? It's such a unique job. It's such a unique service. Because like for the episode that's running this week while we're recording this, it's with Rita Merchandani. She does Akashic Records, and now having gone through at least a similar past life regression experience with you and having had my Akashic Records read, both are similar in the sense that it can link past lives or future lives, and it's very much involving your guides and or higher self, but it's so different. It is such a unique experience, both of those. So what's really cool is that there's so many different pathways to understanding your soul's journey, but having a past life regression session like with you, I would highly recommend it to
Thank
everybody.
you.
Well, just because of like the value of the experience, and then, I mean, to be honest, I was, after realizing the clock and realizing how unattached I was to whatever was happening between like what you were saying. I honestly just remember walking down a hallway and opening a door. That's about like where I just was like, peace out. The conscious Whitney is no longer here. So I remember seeing things, and I can still remember it like it's memory, like it's something like I actually went through, um like I don't remember all of what you said. I don't fully remember all the questions you asked. So it's a really unique experience, but I feel so different. I feel like there's a shift that happened, like energetically, in my space here and within me, which is really interesting.
I'm happy to hear that.
Is that common with people? Do people feel like not only did I have time travel hair, but I'm also like, do most people tell you that? Like, I feel like something just pivoted, or I feel like, like something just moved around inside me.
Mm-hmm.
Do people describe it like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's typical.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. Yeah, that's typical. Was that better?
Thank you. Yeah. No, it's like hard to know, because I'm sure just everyone's experience is so unique, but ultimately what happens is that you have an energetic shift, because the downloads that you get from your past lives, you can't unsee, you can't unfeel. I think I was crying at one point, like in the actual vision, and when I came up I was like, oh, like, wow, like my cheek is wet. I was really crying, I think it was when I linked my son in that one past life with the potatoes and cabbages that I was selling at a stand on the street, in kind of a ghetto area, but
In the rain.
in the rain. And it was just like, I could tell this was a shitty day, and it just was not looking up, like, who's going to buy my cabbages and potatoes that are now wet, because I'm literally just like coming from the farm and just trying to make ends meet. And either I don't know necessarily if I was gonna like lose. I didn't feel a sense of necessarily like urgency, just more of like, I am struggling to provide, and to pay bills. And my son, uh did you ask a question? Because I'm remembering hearing your voice, but I don't know what you asked.
I asked you to ask him if he had any messages for you.
Okay. Because I just remember kneeling down and looking at him, and he just said, I love you, mama, and we're going to sell everything today. Like, don't worry, I got you. It was kind of like, I got this, we got this, we're going to do this. It was just kind of that attitude. Like, here I am just feeling like hopeless, and he was just like, no, like, we're going to do this. And then at some point, and I have no frame of reference of when we did this, but at some point, did you ask Sarah who he was now presently? Is that how this happened?
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming so, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so you asked Sarah, because again, so guys, at one point I felt like I almost got left into, like, I got put into my bedroom or something as like a little girl or something. I got put into a room because I could hear Daniel and Sarah, my higher self or higher whatever guide, talking to Daniel, and it was like I could sort of hear and make it out, but I wasn't like present for the conversation. Whitney was not included for this conversation. Daniel was taken over and just skipping over me and talking to my higher self. And that was so that there could just be more clarity. But I saw it. It was almost like as you guys were talking, I could see who was who right now, if that makes any sense. So as soon as I saw like my son Jacob turned into my brother in this lifetime, I remember feeling like this like gut response. It was so funny. It was like my stomach was like churning of like, this is your brother, like same soul. And which makes total sense because when I was young, I drove my mom crazy because I was like, no, mom, we share mothers. And my brother, his whole poor little man, his poor little childhood, he was like, Mom, tell Sissy to stop mothering me. She's mothering me. I would not leave him alone. I would tell him everything to do. I mothered the shit out of my little brother, poor guy. And so it makes sense. I would have never known, well, I technically was your mom in a past life. So that's probably why I would have that inclination to mother you.
It all makes sense.
Makes total sense. Yeah. Yeah. I'll let him know. So that way he'll feel not so not so mothered. Like, well, okay, that makes sense. But I think it's so cool because yeah, you asked Sarah some questions and it was like I could make out what you're saying, but it was almost like she was showing me on the side. Like here she's having a conversation with you, but I felt like she was linking things that I had seen that were linked to this previous time. Like my husband, and one of them was my first boyfriend. And so there was a lesson to be learned there and maybe some karmic things that needed to be worked out. And I don't know if that's necessarily something that like those souls, my soul, his soul, said, let's work on this, let's do this so that we can experience this and grow from it. I don't know.
I think that's probably the
is
case.
there a way? Yeah, is there a way you can tell that? Is that just like generally a rule of thumb with things, or?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that was one of the questions that I asked to Sarah was something like, when things were different in that past life than they were in the current life, like what was the reason for that? And I think her answer was something along the lines of that what you experienced in this life was not something that you would experience in that previous life, but you needed to go through that experience and understand what that was like. So this is something that this person signed up for. Like, yeah, I'll fill that role for you.
Got it.
Like,
got it.
You know,
yeah,
I hold a very unpopular opinion that, I mean, I don't think is exclusive to me. But like when it comes to soulmates, I believe that sometimes your biggest enemy can be your soulmate. And not even in a romantic sense. Yeah. But, you know, it's what is the lesson that this person teaches you. So they may love you so much as a soul that they're like, yeah, I'm going to come and make your life a living hell. And I'm going to be that person you just despise because I love you that much. And it's going to help you to learn that lesson, whatever that lesson may be.
So interesting, because I know, like, at least in a biblical sense, that was one of the lessons that Jesus taught, is love your enemies. And I wonder if there was a greater purpose in that, not just like learn to love people that hate on you, but that you need to love them so that you're open to the lessons that they're teaching you, whether they know it or not, whether it's purposeful or not, or was agreed upon or not. Regardless, you need to just be open to learning the lesson and allow it to hit you in such a way that you're not resisting that, right? So that's a really interesting perspective. That definitely resonates with me, because maybe my worst enemies have been my biggest teachers when I allowed them to be, you know, instead of just focusing on the hurt, the betrayal, what they did, what they said. when I could finally step away from it, at least enough emotionally, I was like, got it, lesson learned. So that's really cool. That's definitely something that any past life regression session someone can at least have that perspective about, and depending on what they see, which is really cool, really healing.
But then, right, it's still your choice how you want to view that encounter. Also, I mean, at the end of the day, you get to decide if it was meaningful to you, or if you just want to look at it as, oh no, this is what it is, or this is what it is, or this is what it is.
Yeah.
It's however you want to see it, but still, that is your choice, because I do feel that it is presented very, very clearly. But we as humans have that ability to choose what we're going to heed.
What we want to learn. And like at one point,
some of us do.
Right. At one point, you said that I was resisting something that my higher self was saying to me. I think it was along the lines of worthiness and love, and of the way that I love, and that it's not tainted, or there isn't something wrong with me in the way that I love people, relationships, friendships, family, it doesn't matter, but just generally how I love. It's not too much, it's not too little, there's not something wrong with me. It's just that's been part of my purpose in this life, is to learn what it's like to not have it received, or given back in exchange. And that's part of the lesson of me healing, and then helping others heal, right? So it was interesting because you asked my higher self, Sarah, to show me, and you mentioned that I was literally shaking and resisting whatever it was that she was trying to show or share with me. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm literally unconscious at this point. I'm not consciously doing that. Like, I didn't know I was doing
that. Yeah. Well, it was like the words were on the tip of your tongue, but you were just kind of like, no, like, I mean, just for your listeners right now, it wasn't like a full body convulsion that was happening. Nothing like that. Like just a little like quiver of the lip, or like, so there wasn't like an exorcism taking place or anything. Like, because I mean,
just like I was resisting, and it was a physical, you could tell physically, because we had the Zoom on, and so you could see that I was resisting it, even in just my expression and shaking, saying no or whatever, not having a demon come out of my body or anything, just
right, because everything up until that point, clear communication, it was flowing perfectly, and then when that question comes up, you see a bit of the quiver, you're like, okay, she's resisting. So yeah, just there wasn't convulsions or anything like that. Because like
right. I'm thinking, oh my god, a little extreme.
Like I'm picturing it as just like, whoa, like,
No.
If that happened, I'd be like, all right, this is the last session I'm ever doing.
Yeah, that would freak me out. No, but there was some resistance there, which is really interesting, because I didn't know that I was resisting, and I just remember whatever was coming to me was this sense, and I was getting just kind of intuitively shown something. And then there was a well at one point that was representing flow and whatever the resource is, and that there's enough that it's not going to run dry, kind of scenario. I'm not sure what that linked to, but yeah, it was really interesting.
And just to kind of really piggyback off of something you were saying there also is, even though it's like you are in this deep, deep state, you still had enough control to not say that. Like you still had that willpower to be like, I don't want this to come forward. I mean, I didn't have to pry it out of you, But it was like, it's like, so why is the resistance right now? And then like once that came up, then is when it started to flow, but you were still completely in control. So even when I asked
Right.
that question, you could have said, no, I don't want to talk about this, or I don't want to address this. And that would have been your choice. And I wouldn't,
Hmm.
like, no means no. So I wouldn't push
Yeah.
the issue.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's not like I'm not in control and that I'm just, but you are, when you choose to do this, you are in a sense saying, I'm cool to be led on this journey. It's more of like, I'm trusting, I'm cool to go on this journey and to be shown whatever I'm shown, but you're not necessarily running the show, like creating this scenario. I didn't feel at all like I'm purposefully like daydreaming right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like it didn't feel like that. I'm a huge daydreamer, so I know at least the difference between my imagination and that experience, because I actually was getting frustrated with how long it was taking for some things to show the details of things, of like what is on the dang scroll.
Yeah.
Like what is on that damn scroll that I'm supposed to look at? Like I'm not seeing like many words. I'm seeing like this belongs to me. I'm the owner of something. This is my property. Like this is mine. That's all I'm getting. I'm not getting anything else. And I was frustrated. I could feel myself being frustrated, but yeah, it's not necessarily like you have no rights, you have no control. um I'm sure at any point I could have said, I'm done, can I bring me back? Bring me back up at one point. And you even um didn't you tell me at the beginning that if at any point we lose connection, that I can count myself back up
Mm-hmm.
into my consciousness, right? So
Yeah.
there is kind of that safety net, as you can take control at any point and say, like, I would like to come back,
Mm-hmm.
or come up out of this state.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why I love it,
that's
is
cool.
you were never relinquishing full control. Because if that was the
Hmm.
case, I wouldn't feel comfortable with it.
Yeah,
I mean, as just a practitioner, I would not feel comfortable with someone
yeah,
relinquishing full control over to me. And definitely as someone who would be in that state, I wouldn't be comfortable relinquishing full control as well.
yeah. Because I think I even maybe had a little bit of a fear around that. And I know that other people have a fear around kind of hypnosis and like, because we've really honestly, media news
Yeah, right.
has not done it justice or credit. So we think like, I didn't know what you were gonna bring out. If you were gonna bring out something to, I was just gonna like, okay, like if there was gonna be like a eye twirling thingy that I was just gonna say yes.
I'm a big clock.
For those who are listening to the podcast, he has a clock that is massive, like a, who is that?
Like a Flavor Flav clock.
Flava Flav, yes, it's a Flava Flav clock that he has, that he just brought out. And yeah, so I didn't really know. And then I was kind of feeling that apprehension of like, I hope this isn't scary or anything. Like, I hope I don't I hope I'm not shown something that is gonna scare the shit out of me, and that I'm gonna have nightmares forever of like a past life of like, something crazy. But also just like the hypnosis part of like relaxing and fully relaxing and not having any fear around the hypnosis was something that I told myself before going into this, of like, don't be afraid. Daniel's not going to do anything that's going to be scary. Like, you're good.
So, well, thank you for that confidence. I appreciate it. That would be horrible karma on my part. So
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with
That's
that.
not something you know.
When it comes to being shown something that you can't handle, it is my firm belief that your higher self knows exactly what you can handle. So you will never be shown anything that you can't handle. Like, I've had people see some pretty heavy stuff, but I've never
Mhm.
heard them say after the fact, that was too much. What I've heard
Yeah.
beforehand is people saying, I'm not a very strong person. Like, I can't handle much. And then they're the ones who see the really heavy stuff. But then they, after the fact, like, no, like that was okay. I could handle it. I even feel part of that is the higher self saying, no, 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 you're stronger than you know. Like, you need to give yourself,
Yeah.
like, even for me personally, I still do these, every 2 to 3 months or have them done to me. And I think it took probably 4 years until I started seeing heavy stuff in my own because I just wasn't ready for it beforehand. I thought I was, but like looking back, I'm like, no, what I saw at that 4-year mark, there's no way I could have handled that at the 2-year mark. Sure couldn't
Yeah.
handle it when I first started, but like my higher self knew when it was time. And even when that particular one I'm referring to right now came up, I had things going on in my life where I'm like, you know what? I need to get to the bottom, like the root of this right now. And I remember before I went to that session that day, I looked in the mirror and I said, I'm ready. But I'd said it before, but the difference was I meant it that time. Like I knew it that I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever needs to be shown to me right now. So, I mean, still, I bring this up because I firmly believe you will never be shown what you can't handle. Dreams, maybe you'll have those. Nightmares, not from this.
Yeah.
Maybe something else, but it won't be from this process
Mhm.
because we have a deal. you know? Sorry for the listeners. I pointed up kind of like to the higher selves, like, we got a deal. Like, you guys are with me right now. Like, you're not going to screw me on this one. Of course, that deal we're making is now. So they've just kind of had my back for the last couple of years.
Oh, that's so good. Um, as far as soul journeys, I mean, because how many years have you been doing this? Like being a past life regressionist? 6 years?
For 5 years now.
5? So out of the 5 years that you've been doing it professionally, what would be your professional perspective, opinion on soul journeys? Like, do we have thousands of lifetimes that we live? Do you think we're kind of allotted like 50 to 100 to make it through and learn the lessons before we? I don't know if you believe in like the whole densities thing and like kind of law of one, raw material stuff of we progress in, into from third to fourth density, from fourth to fifth. I don't know what you believe in that. But like as far as like soul journeys and everything, do you feel like we're allotted a certain amount to learn the lessons before we graduate? Do we graduate?
I don't believe we're allotted a certain amount of lives. I believe that when we learn the lessons, we learn the lessons. Some people, yeah. I mean, I'm going to spitball a number right now. It may take someone 100 lives. Someone, it may take 5,000. Now, I mean, then the question also becomes, well, what gives a soul unique properties where that one soul will take 100, where the other one will take 5,000? Do we all come out
Yeah.
the same? Then you think about astrology and natal charts. If my soul has my natal chart right now and your soul didn't have your natal chart, but it had mine, would you act the same way that I did? Is there something unique about the soul, or is it the properties and the energy that we're working with in that given life? Now, when it comes to ascending, I guess you could say, or rising from dimension to dimension, someone piss a lot of people off right now, where in a linear sense, like I need to just like really emphasize that one. In a linear sense, I have lived lives that jumped around, where I may have been more advanced in one life. In the next life, I wasn't. Like it's anything but advanced. And it's like jumping around from the situation to situation. Now, still, that's in a linear sense. So I don't think that necessarily in the next life I'm going to, be one step up from where I am now. And the life after that, 2 steps up from where I am now. I think it's about what you need to learn. What are the lessons there? And if in that particular lesson or life, you need to just learn a certain lesson, then you may need to go back down a few steps. I mean, whatever the hell that means, anyways, in terms of what's advanced and what's not. Because, I think as a society, we look down upon certain people, in certain jobs, but who's to say that the janitor is less evolved than the CEO? You know, I think that the janitor is probably more evolved than the CEO. Sorry, CEOs. Because of the things that the janitor needs to deal with. Why wouldn't that be more evolved? Then again, maybe the CEO is more evolved. But I think that some people just view it through the lens of if you have higher status, that you're more evolved. I can tell you from working with people who have been royalty in past lives, my God, those are some of the most miserable people for that tiny, tiny fraction of those lives of royalty that I find in past lives where people are actually happy. My jaw is nearly hitting the floor. I'm like, oh my God, like you found a happy life as someone of royalty? Like these people are miserable. So if someone thinks that working their way up to royalty is the pinnacle, I don't know. Like, I don't know about that. And when it comes to even dimensional, I have had people who have come from, what they've labeled as higher dimensions because they're just here to do something that needs to be done. So is there a hierarchy of dimensions? I mean, maybe they're all different. Like I had a session about a month and a half ago where like an alien collective came through, which does happen from time to time. And they identified themselves as, this collective from the 12th dimension. And my reaction to that is whoop did you do? So you're 9 above us. I was sitting on the couch before they came in, and I was sitting on the couch once they came in. Like I didn't drop to my knees. And I mean, I bring this all up because is the hierarchy anyways. Who cares? If people have the mentality of I'm better than so-and-so because I'm this, or, I'm a light worker and the janitor isn't a light worker. So I'm better than the janitor because I'm a light worker. Man, go shove your head up against a wall or something. Or like, if you have that mentality, oh God, shoving. No,
I'm
I
a
meant to
star
say,
seed.
right? Like, do I believe in these things? Yes, I do believe that there are quote unquote people who are here to help bring the light or whatever.
Right.
But it doesn't make you better than someone who's not that. Or if you're a star seed, it doesn't make you better than an egg seed, which I know isn't a real thing. Like, so with the hierarchy of those things, I find that we find ourselves in a dangerous trap. And another reason I'm very passionate about this is because I was that guy who needed to have his head smashed up against the wall. Because when I started coming around to body, I heard these terms, and these terms gave me an ego. Well, I'm the light worker. I mean, I did look at people who were service people still with compassion, but it was still like, I'm here to bring the light to the planet. Oh my God, I was kidding myself. I mean, just in terms of having that outlook. And so with the hierarchy, maybe, but work to be a better person. Don't work to work your way up the ladder. Like, because you may find yourself in that position in the next life of being at the quote unquote bottom of the ladder because that's where your next lesson is. So, um, like another thing I just want to bring up really quickly in terms of me falling into that trap is it was me not wanting to look at the parts of myself that I didn't want to look at because it made it easier to just say, I'm here to just be in the light and bring the light. Because if I'm going to be in the light all the time, then what's the point of looking at the dark? Oh my God, the inner turmoil that I had going on in that, I was totally kidding myself. And I also fell into the trap of listening to some spiritual teachers who were feeding into that. When I decided to start learning astrology, I had one of them say to me, don't waste your time with that. You're much more important than that. You have so much more to do than, you're here to change the world. Like, don't waste your time in astrology. It's like, I got news for you. Learning astrology has helped me understand myself on a level that being a whatever, an egg seed could never provide me.
Yeah.
So don't let anyone fill your head with garbage that you are holier than the person sitting right next to you. Now, just sorry for that tangent. Yeah, okay, I believe there are different dimensions and there are different properties in these dimensions and different things going on. Sorry, did I sidetrack there too much?
Not at all. It was really good.
The
You know,
egg
I
seed,
think
that
it's
was a really good one too. I'm gonna have
that
to
was
use
a
that
good one.
again.
I think you're right in the sense that it's not about achieving. Like, and we can so easily get into that. I'm somebody that can get easily into that of like, I need to achieve, I need to enlighten, I need to awaken. And so instead of learning the lessons and letting awakening be the the process, the result of you learning and growing, we focus on I just need to awaken. So then we never do the work. We never get into it because we're just thinking of I just when I die and I come back, I just want to be a fourth density being, right? It's all about like, well, I just want to be 4D, 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 5D, 5D. I'm a 5D. I'm a 5. And we're trying to identify before we ever even allow ourselves to go through the process that we need to go through ultimately, like the whole reason why we're here.
Mhm.
So I think that's where we can get really sidetracked is the ego always wants to identify, right? It wants an identity because then, oh, look at the social standing that I have, or the the impression that I'm making, the reputation that I have in the community that I'm in, right? We're in the spiritual community, right, of coaches, teachers, practitioners, people of
Spiritual
service,
dude.
spiritual dude,
Or
spiritual
just a
girl,
past life
spiritual.
regression dude who asks questions.
We're in the workings of it as well as personally going through it on ourselves, but we constantly are looking to identify everybody is, right? So it's something that we have to look at and work through and make sure that we're not blocking ourselves by our need to be seen, to be heard, to be recognized, to have that recognition, to have accolades, to have applause. And instead of that, we need to focus on the lessons that need to be learned, which is the whole point of the work that you do is to learn that lesson and to link it, to understand in a deeper sense why we're here and why maybe we're dealing with stuff. Like I was on a Clubhouse talk that you were leading, um, with Christine, who is astrology now underscore podcast. Her Instagram handle is that. And you guys were doing a really cool talk talking about patterns and past life, present life, and just relating that and talking about that. And it was so cool because just understanding that we can deal with things that maybe are karmic, we can deal with things that maybe are things that we that has just been something that we've needed to deal with that we've never dealt with. It could be something that you did, like a mistake you made that you didn't ever deal with that energy that was around that mistake or whatever happened, or pain, maybe betrayal, like I had, like grief, loss. And so it was something I hadn't really fully dealt with. And so I had that fear coming up in this lifetime. So there's things like that that we can more deeply understand of, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense why that was like an automatic thought of like, my dad's dying, I'm losing him, right? Grief, sorrow, like was coming up in a huge way as a 4-year-old when he got into a car accident. It was really intense. And why was that my first thought? Why wasn't it just, oh, daddy's sick? You know, why didn't I just think daddy's just not feeling well? Instead, it was daddy's dying, it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
Life altering, life changing. Now I understand why.
Yay.
Good
So
feelings.
one thing I just kind of also want to say about the whole egg seed thing is I hope I didn't offend anyone out there who identifies not as an egg seed, but as a star seed or a light worker or anything of that nature, where this is my plea to you to say, you know what, odds are you probably are special. I mean, everyone is. Everyone on the planet is special and unique in their own way. You
Mm-hmm.
probably are here to bring the light or whatever that is, but
Mm-hmm.
but you're not better than anyone else.
Yeah.
Just because I do past life regression doesn't mean that I'm, like what was brought up for the Akashic records. We're unique in our own way. The Akashic records reader is not better than I am because they're an Akashic records reader. I'm not better than the Akashic records reader because I'm a past life regressionist. We're just
Right.
unique in our own way.
Yep.
In the superiority complex that comes along with the identification of these terms, it's not good for anyone
Mm-hmm.
because it creates turmoil inside of the individual who has that complex, and then the projection is placed upon those who they look at as less than. So my plea to you is to see yourself as human. First and foremost, have the human experience, to learn what it means to have pain, to learn what it means to love, to learn what it means to have fun. Because look, even God took off the seventh day. So put your feet up, let your hair down, go take a dip in the ocean every so often. Be human, live the human experience, and do whatever it means to do with or whatever it means to be a light worker. You can do it, but just do it as a human, not as a light worker.
Right.
And I don't want to speak on behalf of Whitney right now, but I'm going to. We're here for you. We got your back, but just don't be an idiot. Like, if someone tells you, if like you say, I want to learn astrology, someone tells you, oh, no, you're better than that. Say, no, I'm going to go learn astrology right now and be human, learn the rules. Oh,
well said.
Yeah.
Well said. Hear, hear.
Remember, but still, I'm just a past life regressionist.
It's just Tuesday.
Just I happen to be holding a little rose quartz in my hand right now, or clear quartz. I don't know. I'm just learning right now, but so just still, I mean by that is, take what I say for whatever it's worth to you. Like, I'm not the end all be all. Like, still, just because I've been doing past life regression for 5 years doesn't mean that I'm better than someone who's been doing it for 4 years or 1 year or someone who hasn't done it at all. They may know so much more than I do. So I'm just a dude or a guy, a human who's just expressing his own thoughts and beliefs and feelings. So just take it or leave it. If it doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't resonate with you. And that's okay.
No, I think it's well said, and hopefully no one's getting offended. I can't imagine anyone getting offended, especially because they understand your sense of humor. If you didn't understand Daniel's sense of humor, just go on his IG, you'll get it. He didn't mean that in a malicious way. He is hilarious. He has the best sense of humor ever.
I may have offended the chickens.
But I think too that it's any time that you need to identify with something. Like, I'm not gonna go tell people like I sold potatoes and cabbages and that's me. Like, no, that was me in a past life, and I shouldn't have to identify with it to feel valid in what I'm doing. I think anytime that we identify with what we do instead of who we are, and allowing, instead of identifying with what we do, we need to identify with who we are, because the moment that we're just identifying with what we do, we actually lose who we are, and we lose the whole reason why we do what we do, because what you do should flow out of who you are, right? And so I think when we have that perspective, or we have that need, there's a reason why we have a need, that we have to identify with what we do. Like, I'm a light worker, or a huge thing that I've been seeing a lot is, well, I'm an Arcturian. Like, that's my heritage, is I was an alien species. I'm Pleiadian. I'm Nordic. Isn't Nordic another one? I think that's all good and fine. It's kind of the same feeling as I used to sell potatoes and cabbages on a street corner in the rain, or at least that was the one day I was shown. I also worked at an apothecary and made healing remedies for people to heal people. I as much as I associate or feel connected to that, I'm not identifying with that. Like, I know that that was a past life. So I know who I am now, and it makes sense and it's great to know. But I just encourage everybody to identify in that same way of, okay, if you feel like you were an Arcturian at one point, or you're Nordic or Pleiadian or whatever, doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
That's great to know if you do know it, same as like past life regression, past lives. It's good to know if it's helpful for you now in your journey now in this lifetime, but to kind of make it like a private party group, or like an exclusive club. Like anytime you're wanting to feel special, like you said, and you need something outside of who you are to feel special, that's a good note to maybe take note of that and look into that, dig deeper into that a little bit more, because there may be a disconnect there or an area of healing. Maybe you need to have some mantras, some affirmations that that just who you are right now in your journey in this present moment today, right now, this hour, you are worthy, right? You are worthy of being who you are. You are valuable. The world needs you. They need the gift that you are, everything you have to offer. And you are totally good to just be who you are right now. You don't need to be something else cool, amazing, unique in order to be unique and cool now, which is basically to summate what you just said. It's the same thing. But I think it's so important. It's not an area of judgment. Like, guys, you guys are stupid for thinking that. It's not that. It's just it's kind of the point of any time that you need to identify, even to the point of identifying this body, like that this body is me. No, this is just the vehicle that I'm in, that my soul is in and inhabiting in order to do what I want to do and feel called to do and purpose to do. This is just a vehicle. This is just a body. I am not this body. I'm not going to identify as this body, and that based off of how I look is my value, is my worth, right? You can't do that. The moment you do that, you run up into issues, right? Um, it can cause blockages and hindrances in your journey instead of having no speed bumps.
Mhm.
So,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, I think you said it perfectly. And what I hear a lot for past life regression is, people will say, well, what if I see something that I can't unsee? What if I
Yeah.
did something horrible? And look, I'll be the first one still to admit that I've done things in past lives that I'm not proud of. And I think I'm making up for it now. Like, I hope I am. But what I also say to these people is, it's not who you were that matters. It's who you are now.
Mhm.
That's all that matters. So same
Yep.
thing, just like you were saying, it's maybe you were these things at one time, but it's who you are now that matters.
Mhm.
Are you treating that service worker or that janitor with kindness and respect and not a superiority complex?
Mhm.
Are you living the human experience? Are you just a good person and not an, you know, specific, like,
Yeah. You don't
are
need
you
to be a
just,
light worker to be cool, you
exactly.
know,
Well, hey,
or a good person.
I don't know about that. I don't think you could be. Okay, maybe that was too far on my part, but I love how you also brought up the association with the different collectives or races, because I think I think it's important to also not get sucked into that,
Mhm.
because what I see a lot of the time is someone saying, "Oh, well, I identify with the Arcturians." Okay, well, that's cool, but they also think that whenever someone out there says, I am speaking on behalf of this collective, whether it's the Palladians or the Arcturians or the blah blah blends or the, you know, whatever it is, that they automatically trust that person. So still, it doesn't matter if it's Arcturian or Syrians or Palladians or uh Lyrians or you name it, whatever it is, like, don't just trust because someone says that they are this thing.
Mhm.
So don't fall into that trap. Like that, I can't be more firm about that one. Don't fall into that trap. Even some of these people who identify these things and say it out publicly, they may have the best intentions. It may not be purposely misleading you at all. They may be kidding themselves, or they may very well actually be the thing that they claim to be and 110% genuine with a message that will radically alter all of humanity. They may be what they're saying, but don't just believe them because they say that they're this.
Yeah.
It's like
You gotta have trust there, and trust is earned over time. And if you're really truly that, you'll be tested. Their words will be tested and shown to either come up true or false. So, and
right?
that's the same in like my experience with Christianity. There were so many preachers that would roll through town, right? And I would see, and you would kind of feel it off of them. Are they authentic? Are they genuine? Are they here to truly help people? Or are they just looking to get whatever tithe and offerings that they can get from this church, do a show, do a dance, and then move on. And so you see that in every single realm, not just Christianity or religion. It's in spirituality too, that we can so easily fall into that trap and get distracted ourselves, either by like trusting somebody and going on some bandwagon, right? Which I think another bandwagon is getting obsessed with ETs and UFOs. It's great to consider that and to broaden your horizon and to broaden your perspective of maybe we're not the only life forms on Earth, or ever. We're not the only beings that exist in the universe. That's great. But anything that we obsess over, need to identify with, in order to be better than, like you said, kind of superior, complex, um, or trusting in someone else other than yourself, your gut, what are you hearing, from your guides, your higher self, your angels? What are they speaking to you? You don't necessarily only need to hear it from other people, right? So it's like tuning into yourself, getting connected. Like that's a part of your journey that you don't want to skip over. It's so valuable, right? It's needed. And so I think there's a lot of things that we can get on and get distracted with and miss out, and or be deceived by, or get caught up in. And that is part of our journey, can be a part of our journey if we choose, right? Everything's a choice. We have free will. If you
Mhm.
want to get caught up in something euphoric, then have at it. But
So, yeah, if you guys are still sticking around and I didn't scare you off with the whole egg seed thing, if you go back to when I was talking about those beings that identified themselves as, 12th dimensional,
yeah.
the they identified themselves as a very specific collective. And the only reason I'm bringing this up now is because this conversation came up. Like they identified themselves as, let's just say, 12th dimensional Octurians. But when I was
Oh,
saying this initially, I'm like, is this even necessary to now convey this to your audience that they're this? Does it even matter? I'm like, no, it doesn't matter. So it's like, so I bring this up because it's just illustrating what difference would that have made had I said that they were 12th dimensional Octurians, or just said
right.
that they were these beings that identify themselves from the 12th dimension, or just saying that they were just beings.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter
Hmm.
because, like you were saying, at the end of the day, just like the preachers that were rolling into town, my question is, these beings that are coming through, do they have the best intentions for the person that they're speaking through right now? Do they have their best interest at heart? That's why I don't care what you are. That's why I'm saying I didn't get down on my knees to praise them. I get salty because it's like putting that edge on.
Hmm.
What the hell are you doing here? What do you want? Of course, it's done in a very loving way. But it's
What is
like,
your vibe? What is your energy?
but it's,
What is
but
your intention?
there's so much misinformation out there.
There
So
is.
just
Yeah.
discern, 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 discern. And it doesn't matter what they are. It doesn't. It just matters if they're here to help.
Mhm.
So yeah. But I'm
I
sure the
think
Octarians are great too. I don't, you
high
know,
five.
high five. Yeah, woo. I don't know if they're better than the Palladians or the, you know, if you're here to help, you're here to help.
Right. I think that's the most important thing. And two, also what you were touching on as far as that, like maybe I wasn't there. I don't know this. I'm putting this out there. Okay. So this is just putting it out there. That maybe that person's perspective, maybe they were basically kind of in that world of Octurians and all of that. Because I know like in my past life regression session that we just did, like when I saw Sarah, I just could relate to the fact that she looks angelic. Like she's angelic in nature. You said that I said not of this realm. Was that to
Mhm.
me or was that her? I can't remember.
I think that's what she told you,
That
and you
she's
relay that
not
to
of
me.
this realm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like I don't have any other, I don't know what it is. If maybe if I was more consumed in Octurians or
She could have been
aliens,
Octarian,
she could have been Octurian. I would
right?
have been,
Yeah.
she's a 12th dimensional Octurian being of whatever, of light. It's like it I whatever your framework is, it's not necessarily a bad thing,
Mhm.
of whatever our perspective is. It's how we relate. You don't know any other way to relate to things other than what you've learned and what you've experienced. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just making sure that you're not um, putting that stick in the ground and saying, this is that. Like, and there's
Mhm.
no other way other than that. I think when we're healthy and we're on this journey and we're learning is when we kind of open up and we just say, well, I'm open to interpretation. I'm open to learning more about this. I'm open, like for me, I'm open to past lives. God, like I had no idea this existed. Like I had no idea you could do this. I had so I didn't even know. I mean, to be honest, the majority of my life I thought this was it. I have one chance, and I'm either going up or I'm going down at the end of this. And that was my perspective my whole life. So to even think that there's past lives is like, woo, like
You forgot one
party.
woo. You only the
Which
woo
woo?
woo.
Woo woo. So I think that's part of our journey is just opening up to the idea and finding what resonates, what is in alignment with you right now and your understanding and growth. And um you have to know what your gut feels like though. You have to know what your intuition, your inner knowing feels like to be guided, to know. If you're not in tune with that, you're not connected, then yeah, you're probably going to rely on whoever is the loudest in your circle, life, whatever. Because instead of connecting with yourself, you're choosing to connect with another voice and be led. So that's kind of where you can, and that's anybody and everybody. That's in Christianity, in my background and experience. That's I'm sure in any religion, you can do that at any point where you're just listening to the pastor. Like for me, growing up and not really tuning into what you feel, you're just whatever he says, she says is true. Period. You know.
What do you mean it's
So
not?
that's not necessarily a healthy place to be because we were not. I don't think we were designed to just rely on something else. I think we were designed to be deeply connected, to resonate. We're energy spirit beings, right? And so we are inherently connected and can know whatever. This past lives wasn't something that you did lead me through it. You didn't tell me exactly what I was going to see, when I was going to see it, who was who now, who's related to who right now in my present life. That all came out of me and my knowing and my higher self. So that's quite empowering, Daniel. It really is. That
Thank you.
we have that ability to deeply know and be connected with our souls, with our spirits. Um, and it takes an expert to help guide us and set that stage and facilitate that happening. And that's the service that you offer, which is invaluable. Um, like can't say that enough. You're a gem, you're a gift to the
Thank you.
world. But it's so cool to know that like, oh, this is cool. like I can do this. And now I'm connected in a way I wasn't before, which is really cool. And that's available to all of us, to everybody. You don't have to be anything or do anything. You don't have to be a light worker to be connected, or be advanced in your soul, spiritual understanding and journey to have this experience.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And, is it okay if I bring up one other thing that came up during the session?
Absolutely.
Well, something that Whitney had mentioned to me before the session is, we have some mutual friends. And she kind of joke of, oh, we probably all know each other from past lives. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, like, of course. I mean, I didn't say that, or did I say that?
I thought we were both joking at that point. I didn't think it was actually true. I feel connected with all of them in this funny way. Like, I feel like we've been friends for years and we haven't ever even physically met, but I could like grab all three of them and hug them for like an hour and just feel like it's still not enough because I just have so much love for them. So it's like we talk about that, like, God, we have so much love between us. But I think you and I were just joking, like, oh yeah, we probably like, yeah,
Well, you were
bye.
joking.
I was joking.
I was dead serious. And, then it came out that we have crossed paths before. And one thing that came up, what were our connections? We were brother and sister. Or I don't know if it was brother and sister, but we were siblings. I was one of them.
We were siblings.
I was a store owner and you worked for me.
Yes.
And then the big one is when we were neighbors. We lived next door to each other, and I was accused of stealing. And you came and broke me out of jail because they were going to hang me. And now we're sitting here talking about egg seeds. And, like one of the mechanics of the universe that facilitates that. And then those other people who we have as mutual friends, you saw them as well, in different roles. One was an aunt, and I think some were siblings in certain lives.
Yeah, friends, siblings. I was getting a lot. It was hard to see it, all, but it was like really clear that there was a very clear connection between all of us. So I felt like I just saw us all hanging out at one point.
So while Whitney may have been joking at the beginning with that, and yeah, my demeanor may have been like joking, I was fully serious. And like,
This isn't the first time that you've had somebody, like a client that you're like, oh, we had past lives together. So for you, you're probably like, we probably have past lives together. And
totally.
I'm just thinking, yeah.
What
was funny? Yeah, it's just another Tuesday. What was funny about that too, that I just want to share with people, is that when I saw that with Daniel and also with the little sisterhood that I have with Yasmin, Sarah, Rita, they've all been on the podcast. When I saw those past lives, I can't tell you the amount of emotion that rushed through me, more so on the whole breaking you out of jail, and like the level of love that I had for you was crazy. And it's awkward because I've never even met you until today. So, and it wasn't like a romantic love. It was like, this is my brother. Like, we grew up together, and you were like my ride or die. And I didn't even necessarily see if I was a girl or a guy. I felt more like I was a chick, but like I planned this. Like, I was like, hell no, he's not dying. Like, not on my watch. And it was just this rescue mission that is like, no, it's not an option. Like, he's not dying. But the amount of emotion that I felt when I saw that, it was like so real. And so it's funny because it's not just like, oh yeah, that's something I saw. That felt as powerful as the other 3 lives that I felt and saw, and it kind of like lived through in that moment. So it's like I'm chewing on that still, because it's like, wow, this involves somebody that like directly, like definitely like my brother, my dad, Like those were crazy connections. I'm definitely going to have to chew on that too, but it's crazy when it's something or someone that you haven't like met, like my brother and my dad I've lived with my whole life, right? I just met you today, but to feel that amount of love for you was crazy in that moment. Felt a little awkward, but it was like, dang. But again, that proves the whole point of the purpose of my session today that my higher self wanted to show is, girl, you love. Like when you love somebody, it doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't have to be somebody that you're like romantically involved with. You will give your life. Like you would rather go down with them than them go down alone. And you'll do whatever it takes to save them. And just accepting that of like, okay, so yeah, I do, because I really feel like I do, but I'm not sure if I do. It was like this weird thing that I guess I needed confirmation from, but
Yeah, they probably would have killed you for that.
they would have, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Probably that
even with
night.
that, you mentioned, right? They probably would have killed you first, just so I would have to watch.
Yeah.
Like, with the shifting of roles, like when you said it, it almost felt a little awkward. It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, I get it. I get how that can be awkward. I guess it's different since I'm sitting on the other side of it because I just see
Yeah.
it so often. And it's like,
Yes.
yeah, I've met my past life wives through, this, and I've met past life children and siblings. And it's just, we all switch roles. And I'm about to drop a big one on your audience right now. Whoever you're romantically involved with right now, like I want you to look at them when you're listening to this or after, whether it's man or woman, and look them in the eye and be like, you may have been my parent in a past life. Like,
Or brother or sister.
right. Or you may have been my child. And like, have I just ruined everything for you guys? Like maybe we should edit this part out, but it's
Yeah.
like we all
Nope.
shift roles. Like we
Mhm.
swap roles. So I understand how, it may be awkward for Whitney to see that dynamic, but I'm like, it's okay. Like even for like the wives or the past life wives, it's like, hey, that was then. Like, this is now. Like it's
Mhm.
not the same dynamic that
Mhm.
that was back then. So, I mean, I guess I just really want to illustrate that the people in your life right now, they're playing a role right now, but that we swap roles. So
Mhm.
they could be playing a different role. Like you said, your brother in this life was your son in a past life.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
just you change roles.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it's
those
not
of us,
awkward in the sense that it's not good. It's more of awkward of like, whoa, I didn't realize we had that connection. That was a story that we had, in our lives together.
Mhm.
you know, because it feels so intimate, especially for me on the other end. I'm I don't know if you felt any kind of pull or emotion of feeling like, yeah, that aligns. Like I feel that connection as well. I don't know if how it felt for you, but the surge and rush of emotions and like the gut response that I had on the inside of like gripping, like I have to save him was so crazy. And to feel that way for somebody that I've just met is like, how do I tell him how I felt? And I've just met this dude, like, uh, and yeah, I mean, you go through this all the time. So for
yeah.
you, it's not new.
Frankly, I pretty much expected at this point. Like anyone who I do a session with, I'm like, I don't think this is the first time I've met you. Like
Mhm,
there are some people that like, admittedly, this is a very, very, very small percentage. Someone who will make my skin crawl who I do a session with. But it perplexes me because I'm like the person sitting in front of me right now, I really like them. Like
mhm,
they're great. They're a
mhm,
great person, a great heart. They're funny, they're charismatic, whatever it may be, but it's like they make my skin crawl. I'm like, okay,
mhm.
well, we have history. Like, I don't know what the reason is, but it's that feeling of it's pretty much expected for me at this point that, and I don't think it's an absolute. I'm sure there are still those cases of times when I haven't encountered someone before. But it's like when you say like, what was I experiencing at that point? It's like, no, that seems right. Like, I mean, you were like, I think, kind of shocked that we had 3 lives together. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's got to be more than that. Like, but it's, yeah. So, I mean, I understand how, because it's so new on your end.
Yeah.
And, but when of course, when I'm sitting across from you, I'm like, no, I know her. I don't know what the dynamic is. Like with the
Right.
whole jail break thing or prison break, I'm like, that's pretty cool. I haven't heard that one before. Like, that was a new one. Like the store owner worker. Like, yeah, I've heard that one about 6 times, like, in reverse role. But the jailbreak, yeah, that was a first. So that was cool.
Mhm.
Thank you for that
Mhm.
one. So I guess it was more exhilarating. But yeah, that's cool.
Adventure.
Yeah, I can hear the muskets going off in the background and
Carol.
right. And then
Yeah.
you got like the string section also. It's like, wait,
Yeah.
there's no orchestra.
So great. Yeah. So interesting. There's so much there. Um, so I think what's really cool is for anybody that doesn't know what this is, they've now gotten a pretty good picture of what this is, what this does for you, how it enhances your journey, um, and can offer you more connection, more healing, more clarity, and validation too.
Hmm.
Because I feel validated right now
Aw.
with the things that I experienced in this lifetime and why I needed to learn those lessons. Because honestly, in the times when I have struggled with suicide, hardcore, or just severe depression, um, I have asked that question: why? Why me? Like, why is this me? I'm seeing everybody fall in love, have their person. Why not me? Or everyone else is finding their purpose and it's clicking for them, right? And they're clicking in, they're finding success, they're finding their rhythm, they're living their dreams, they're, traveling, they're doing whatever, right? They're happy. Why not me? And so this for me, this session validated you came here to learn the lesson. And life handed you whatever the lessons were, whether it was that person, that was situation experience, that boss, that job, whatever it was here to teach you that lesson that you came here to learn so that then you could help people navigate learning their lessons because no one is going to love somebody through their process like me. Sorry. You know, moms love people through, love their kids through a lot of things, but I have such a heart for people and I know this that nobody's going to love and hold space for somebody like me. I have a unique gift of loving people, of embracing people for who they are, no matter what, no judgment, no criticism. That's just my gift to the world, right? I'm not like saying I'm the best and like the cheese knees or nothing, but I know that this is my gift. This is why I came here was to redeem the time for people so that they feel healed, restored, like they can move forward. They're not crippled by like people bullying them in high school. It breaks my heart when I hear stories like that of people that have never, ever, ever been in a relationship because of the level of hurt and pain and abuse that they experienced as a kid, right? Those types of things, I want to come in and be a support and love them and support them through their healing journey so that they can experience love, they can experience life, and they're not blocked or, hindered in any way. And your unique gift is that you help people get connected in a way that they would never ever get connected. um, Akashic records is one thing, astrology is another, right? There's so many other services and gifts, but understanding past lives and going through this journey and going through it with someone who honestly is great. Like I can hear your voice and how you sounded and how you were even joking with Sarah or like laughing with Sarah over things and even myself. Like it was such a positive, uplifting, fun experience. It wasn't scary. It wasn't um too intense, right? It was something that was just really, really unique that I think only you can provide. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for sharing that with me and for sharing it with us. And
That means a
Thank you for
lot to me.
joining me
Thank
on
you
this
so much.
episode
Thank you
and
for
this
having me. Just
podcast.
thank you
Oh,
for just everything. Like, this has been an amazing day, and I guess it's the least I can do, since you broke me out of jail like, and saved my life. These are the types of reunions that I live for. And to those of you also who I've now ruined your relationships because you're going to look at your significant other, I apologize. It just is what it is. Or maybe they haven't been your parent or child. And maybe that role will come later on. So just enjoy it now.
So funny. So, Daniel, where can people go to learn more and book a session with you?
Cool. Well, you can go to my Instagram at the Past Life Regressionist or my website, yourpastliferegressionist.com. Yeah, just you can send me a message through either platform. And
Very cool.
it's a really cool process, still I'm slightly biased to it, but it's fascinating. And I love it so much because with Whitney's session today, I had no idea what was going to happen. I had no idea what she was going to see. So I'm going to have that same excitement for your session because it's going to be new for me too.
So cool. Thank you so much.